Welcome back to the Marvel Podcast for gifted listeners. I hope that you enjoyed learning about Marvel properties that are in the multiverse, but might not cross over into 616, but they are Marvel properties. And I hoped you enjoyed Mephisto's Advocate, just a fun little get-together to talk about the MCU. Today, we're going to dive deep into the next big bad of the MCU, a villain that I was first introduced to in the 2005 Fantastic Four movie, and eventually learned his true origins. But I wanted to dive deep and really get to know the character of Doctor Doom before Robert Downey Jr. does his performance of the character. We will do the same style as we did for Iron Man, where Phase 1 will be looking at key players in Victor's life, and Phase 2 will be Doom's life history. So, now let's get into the mechanical and magical, and look at all power, the mighty, the one above all, Dr. Victor Von Doom. So to start off, we have Victor Von Doom. He is a pretty reclusive man who only truly loved a few people in his life. His list of relatives and friends and family is going to be relatively small, but still good to know the players in Doom's life. First off, we have Mephisto. Mephisto is a demon who has a realm that he calls Hell or Hades, but is not the Christian or the Greek version of either. He is not Satan or Lucifer. He will only refer to himself as such to mess with the humans. Werner Von Doom, Dr. Doom's father. Cynthia Von Doom, Victor's mother. Valeria, one of the only women that Doom had ever loved. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and the intellectual rival of Victor. Ben Grimm, the Thing and adversary to Doom, who met Doom alongside Reed in college. Sue Storm, Reed's wife and mother of Franklin and Valeria Richards. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch and antagonist of Doom. Franklin Richards, Reed and Sue's first child. Valeria Richards, Reed and Sue's second child, as well as Doom's godchild, who he named after his first love. Latveria, which is Doom's home country where he is ruler. Christoph Vernard, Dr. Doom's adopted son. Victorious, the champion of Dr. Doom and Latveria. And the Maker, an evil version of Reed Richards from Earth 1610. So now that we know the major players and locations for Doom's life, let's go back to little baby Victor, before he met Reed, before the magic, before the technology, and before he was the Doom that the world would come to know. Born to a Romani woman in a camp outside Latveria, after a deal with Mephisto that went wrong, Doom lost his mother. Fleeing the camp with his son, Werner Von Doom would succumb to the cold, but his child would soon live. Now, as an orphan, Victor would spend his youth learning as much as he could about magic and technology so that he could rescue his mother from Mephisto, who he blamed for her death. Before he would go to college, he would meet a woman named Valeria and fall in love with her, but she would reject his advances. Doom would then travel to the United States for his college education, at a college that was just called State University, because good job Marvel on naming stuff. It is said to be the best private university in the United States. At the university, Victor would meet Reed Richards and Ben Grimm. Reed and Victor developed an almost instant dislike of each other, and Reed would pull a prank on Doom and change his name on a trophy to say Doof, because petty college boys. Even though Doom would have a dislike for Reed, the two would still have esoteric debates to the point that their professors would compare them to Albert Einstein and Leonardo da Vinci. While Reed was working on his space shuttle, Doom was working on a machine that would allow him to traverse his astral form to another dimension. He was making this device to try and find his mother that was stolen by Mephisto. While figuring out the machine, Reed would point out that some of Doom's calculations were off. But Doom was very arrogant and didn't really like taking advice from people, especially Reed. And, thinking that Reed was trying to just upstage him, he would ignore Reed and proceed with the experiment. The experiment would be conducted in his dorm room, and before Reed flipped the switch, he tried one more time to warn Victor that there was something wrong with his calculations, but he just told Reed to flip the switch. So, Reed did. This caused the machine to explode and scar Doom's face, hence why he wears the mask. Doom would then get expelled from the university for this experiment because the university saw it as an unethical experiment. Victor would go on to blame Reed for both the expulsion and scarring his face, even though Reed tried to warn him. After the expulsion, Doom would travel to the mountains to seek information from Tibetan monks. In the village, with the monks, they would forge Doom a suit of armor and a mask. The suit would be based off of metal dolls that Werner would use to entertain a young Victor. Doom would eventually come to realize that the dolls were based on himself, from a time that his father wound up in the present. Equipped with the suit that would be used for battle and his magical prowess, Doom returned to his home country of Latveria. When he arrived in his homeland, he overthrew the current ruling regime and declared himself the new king. He would then use the country's resources to further his plans for world domination. After years apart, Doom would attack the Fantastic Four at the Baxter Building. He would kidnap Sue and force the rest of the team to follow him to Latveria to rescue her. He does this so that he can send the Fantastic Four back in time to retrieve Blackbeard's treasure. The treasure is said to contain the Merlin gems, powerful magical artifacts that Doom was after. The Fantastic Four did find the treasure, but let it sink to the bottom of the ocean so that Doom could not get his hands on the gems. Doom would convince Namor to team up with him to fight the Fantastic Four. The plan that Doom had come up with fails, and the Submariner retreats back to his home under the surface. Doom's next plan against the Fantastic Four was to swap minds with Reed Richards. He was switched back, but he would be switched back, and the Fantastic Four would shrink him down with a shrink ray and send him to Subatomica. But with help from Ant-Man, Doom was defeated once again. The next way that Doom tried to take on the Fantastic Four would be to hire the Terrible Trio, a group of criminals given powers by Doom. After the Fantastic Four defeated Doom once again, Doom would be sent into space where he would meet Rama Tut, who claimed to be a descendant of Doom. Rama Tut would be sent back to the future, and Doom would return to Earth. The next attempt by Doom would end up with Doom being hypnotized and sent back to Latveria, believing he had defeated the Fantastic Four. The hypnotism was broken by a Latverian street magician who was performing at Castle Doom. After the hypnotism is broken, he heads back to America and fights the Fantastic Four, who have lost their powers. But, funnily enough, he is defeated by Matt Murdock, Daredevil. Doom, still being petty about what happened in college, believing that Reed was his greatest enemy, wanted to ruin the wedding day of Reed and Sue Storm. And the only way he thinks he can do that is to assemble a force of villains even greater than the Fantastic Four. He gathered the Puppet Master, Red Ghost, and Mole Man. As each of the villainous groups attempted to thwart the wedding of the two, they were stopped by various heroes who were in attendance. Dr. Doom was stopped. Sue and Reed did get married. And finally, we're going to touch on the time that Doom stole the Silver Surfer's board. He flew the board and used the power cosmic that was imbued into him to finally beat the Fantastic Four. He would eventually lose the power, though, when there was a barrier set up by Galactus around Earth, and when Doom tried to go through the barrier, he would be separated from the board, lose his powers, and the Surfer would regain his board and powers. After his brief stint with the powers of the Silver Surfer, Doom would travel back in time to learn magic from various masters of the mystic arts. After returning from a time trap, he would want to go back farther, but was told that the boosters required to send him back were on hold from Stark International. Tony would have put a stop to this shipment because he didn't trust Doom. But he knew Doom would still come for what he had ordered. So, he would suit up as Iron Man and stand guard at the docks expecting Doom's attack. But Doom's goons would show up and take the supplies from Stark. Tony then goes to Latveria to confront Doom. But he goes as Tony Stark, because at this time, it's still believed that Iron Man is Tony Stark's bodyguard, not Tony himself. But once he is out of sight of Latverian soldiers, he changes into his Iron Man armor and confronts Doom. While Iron Man and Doom were fighting, a disgruntled Latverian scientist, who has been operating Doom's time machine, would send Tony and Doom back in time to Camelot, and then destroy the machine, hoping to trap both Doom and Iron Man in the past. While in the past, Doom would find the sorceress, Lady Morgana Le Fay, and learn her power in exchange for Doom leading her forces against King Arthur. Iron Man, on the other hand, would stay with King Arthur and promise to lead King Arthur's forces against Doom's and his armies. After the clash between King Arthur's army and Le Fay's army, Doom and Tony would realize that they would have to work together to get back home. Using various parts of their armors and their combined intelligence, the two managed to get back to the present day. Doom would return to Latveria to bring a young boy, Christoph Vernard, under his wing and raise him to be an heir to the Latverian throne. When it had seemed that Doom's body had perished and he was seemingly dead, the servants of Doom enacted a plan to program Christoph to have Doom's mind by playing him Doom's life and essentially brainwashing the kid into thinking he was Doom. After successfully doing this, Christoph would review the old plan of Doom trying to take down the Fantastic Four with the Submariner, believing that it was the Submariner's fault for Doom losing. So he would go and attack the Fantastic Four the same way, but not have the Submariner as part of his plan. Taking a set of Doom's armor, Christoph went to New York and took the Baxter Building, and put it into space and then blew it up. The Fantastic Four would survive this because of one of Sue's force fields, and they would return to Earth and invade Latveria. During this invasion of Latveria, this is where they learned the truth of Doom, that they had been fighting, and that it was just a brainwashed child. They would then bring Christoph back to Four Freedoms Plaza, the new headquarters of the Fantastic Four, and imprisoned him because even though they tried to deprogram him, he still believed himself to be the real Doom. During this, the Beyonder had restored Doom's body for him. When Victor returned, he would kidnap Franklin and use his powers to try and defeat Mephisto to get his mother back. During the confrontation with Mephisto, Doom had a moment of humanity and did not trust Franklin to defeat Mephisto. The Doombots did not think that this was the real Doom because of this humanity, and so, while Doom was in Mephisto's realm, Christoph had called the Doombots to release him from the prison, and he showed up to confront Victor. During this battle, the Doombots didn't think that Victor was the real Doom, and would now side with Christoph and return to Latveria, with Christoph to rule. This would begin a civil war in Latveria that would result in Doom and Christoph exchanging many blows until Doom used a code word to restore Christoph's personality. Christoph would then be put into stasis by the Tibetan monks that Doom had worked with when he was younger. Doom would now reclaim his throne in Latveria after this instance. But what came next, Doom was not expecting. The Beyonder would kidnap a handful of heroes and villains to fight in the First Secret Wars. During this conflict, Doom would become the leader of the villains. After the villains' defeat at the hands of the heroes, he would escape his holding cell and use the body of Ulysses Klaue and construct a machine to steal the powers of Galactus. Now that he had the powers of Galactus, Doom would take on the Beyonder, hoping to defeat him. But Doom would ultimately lose to the Beyonder. But when the Beyonder would try to dissect Doom's body, a device in Doom's armor would activate, stealing the powers of the Beyonder as well. Weakened but not totally defeated, The Beyonder would use Claw's body to get close to the now overpowered Doom. The power Doom controlled at this point was so much for him that he could barely control it. It was so powerful that he feared that if he would sleep, he would lose control and destroy the world with just a simple dream. Once the Beyonder was able to get close to Doom, he would use the Visage of Claw. With this Visage, he would convince Doom to grant him a fraction of his power. When Doom did this, the Beyonder would then leave Claw's body and be able to take back the rest of his power from Doom, and put an end to the secret war, and send everyone back to their respective places where he had taken them from. Doom's next goal in taking over the world actually did succeed. Doom would develop a machine called the Psychoprism to control and use the Purple Man's power, and he basically mind-controlled the entire world's governments into naming him the ruler of the world. The crazy thing is, Doom was a pretty good ruler in terms of prosperity for the planet. The world saw prosperity, the end to wars and hunger, and equality. The only downside was there wasn't any free will. Doom's victory would soon feel meaningless to him due to there being no opposition to his new position. The Avenger Wonder Man would have a resistance to the Purple Man's powers and be able to convince Captain America, Iron Man, Wasp, and Hawkeye to break free of Doom's mind control, and then the team went inside Doom Island where the Psychoprism was and they would destroy it. Doom, feeling dissatisfied with his rule, did not oppose the heroes and let them break the Purple Man free, and thus the Earth would return to its status quo. After years of studying and scheming, Doom was ready to try and rescue his mother from Mephisto. And to do so, he had to actually put his ego aside. In the contest of the Age Genghis, which is a contest to find the next Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange won, and Doctor Doom was the runner-up. In the rules of the contest to become the new Sorcerer Supreme, the new Sorcerer Supreme was obligated to answer the request of the runner-up. Now traveling to Mephisto's realm, with the help of Doctor Strange, Doom offered Strange in place of his mother. This would disgust Cynthia Von Doom to the point that her soul was too pure for Mephisto's realm, and would ascend into heaven. Even though his beloved mother now hated him, Victor was satisfied in knowing that she was no longer being held by Mephisto. During Onslaught's attack, Doom would show up to help defeat the villain. He said he was there because there was no point in ruling a world that was just ash. During the fight, it didn't seem winnable. But that's when Hulk asked Jean Grey to shut down his Banner personality so that he could unleash his full fury. After Hulk had broken Onslaught's armor, there was a big burst of power that was essentially uncontrollable, because now that there wasn't anything to contain the power, it was just running rampant. So the heroes would start to go into this void of power to essentially become the new vessels. The mutants couldn't interact with this because of their genetics. And as the heroes went in to absorb this power, Iron Man noticed that Doom wasn't doing his part. So he flew by and grabbed Doom and forced him into the vortex. Once all the heroes were in, the X-Men all attacked at once and seemingly destroyed Onslaught and all the heroes. All the heroes would end up in a pocket dimension that Franklin Richards had unintentionally created called Counter-Earth, where much of the history, including Doom's, was pretty much the same. Some of the key differences, though, was that Doom knew the other brilliant minds of Marvel at college instead of just Reed, so he knew Tony and Strange. And when he ruled Latveria, he also would fund Hydra. On Counter-Earth, Doom would also use time travel to repeatedly go back in time to try and defeat Galactus. It was kind of a similar scenario with that, kind of how Doctor Strange kept going back in time in his first solo movie. But the only difference is that Doom would be defeated, not die, and he would go back and be like, all right, no, that didn't work. Let's go back again. The time that they won was when Doom was able to convince S.H.I.E.L.D. to assemble all the heroes, and as a team, the heroes all won. After several months on this Counter-Earth, Doom would learn the truth, and with the help of Counter-Earth Strange, they would make a trans-dimensional ship and get all of the displaced heroes back to Earth Prime. Doom on the ship would try to take Franklin for his powers, but would be stopped by Thor, who would throw him off the ship, leaving him to drift into space. Doom would eventually come crashing down to Counter-Earth's New York City, a world now devoid of heroes, and one that believed the heroes had abandoned them. Doom would become their new champion, and eventually take over the world and fix the chaos he would see in the world. As Doom is correcting things in this world, he learned that the reason there was so much chaos on Counter-Earth was a sleeping Celestial. When Doom gains enough power, the sleeping Celestial now sees him as a threat that needs to be taken out. When the dreaming Celestial tries to take out Doom, Doom will activate a set of Geosorcerous pylons, where he is able to siphon the power of the sleeping Celestial, and force Counter-Earth out of its pocket dimension and into the same universe as Earth Prime. Doom would claim this planet as a sovereign planet and ruled it as Doom World. After learning that the sleeping Celestial was still alive, Doom would travel to Earth and seek the help of Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four to help him defeat the sleeping Celestial. The Fantastic Four helped Doom, but the sleeping Celestial seemingly destroyed Doom. But instead of Doom actually being destroyed, he would be sent to Africa on Counter-Earth, and Reed is put into the body of Doom. Richards would be able to impersonate Doom long enough for the real Victor to return. But the real Victor didn't return without its tribulations. He had to escape a slave mine that was run by Al-Qaeda. And when he did make it back to Counter-Earth, New York, he learned that one of his former underlings would be in charge, and with that, Doom would leave Counter-Earth and return back to his home planet. After some time, Sue Richards would become pregnant with their second child, but they would lose the baby due to miscarriage. But after some complications with Galactus, Sue would become re-pregnant with this child. While Reed was gone, Johnny turned to the only person that might be able to help him, and this, of course, was Doom. Doom would use the excess energy that Johnny had been putting out from a problem with Johnny's own powers and channel it into Sue, and this would allow her to give birth to a baby girl. After the baby is born, the only thing Doom would take for helping Sue was that the baby had to be named whatever Doom wanted it to be. Doom would then name the baby after his first love, Valeria. And, going forward, if I'm referring to this Valeria, I will be saying Valeria Richards. Besides that, I am still referring to Doom's first love. But, with this birth, Doom had a new idea. To gain more power, he would sacrifice his first love, Valeria, in a deal with the Nazareth III, which would give him a new set of supernatural armor. The armor would be leather and made from the skin of Valeria. With his new power, Doom would trap Doctor Strange's astral form, as well as 3 of the members of the Fantastic Four. But he wouldn't trap Reed, though, because of his hatred and arrogance for Reed. Not believing that Reed would be able to use any sort of magic, he would trap Reed in his magical library. And he didn't think that Reed would ever gain enough magical knowledge to save anybody. Reed, however, did gain enough knowledge to free Doctor Strange, who in turn would give Reed a crash course in magic, enough to free him and 3 of the members of the Fantastic Four. The team would then be able to trick Doom into angering the Nazareth III, and they would drag him to hell and the Valeria armor would be forever lost. While Doom was in Hell, Reed would take over Latveria and dismantle Doom's forces so that Doom couldn't hurt anyone again. While doing this, Reed would try to drive his family away so that he could trap Doom in a pocket dimension, so that he could really never hurt anybody again. Unfortunately, this plan would backfire, and the other four would show up to save Reed. While this happened, Doom was able to possess each of the three members respectively. But while he was in the Thing's body, Reed was then forced to kill Ben to keep the world safe. Doom would then return to Hell, and Reed would use a machine that Doom had built to travel to heaven and return Ben back to life. While Mjolnir was falling to Earth, it had traveled through space and time and passed through Hell. While it passed through Hell, Doom could feel its power and would follow the proper trail to return to Earth. Once he was back on Earth, Doom took back control of Latveria and ordered his troops to find Mjolnir. Doom believed that the hammer had chosen him, and he thought he was worthy. Once he found the hammer, he fought off the Fantastic Four, explaining to them how he escaped Hell, since that was the last place they left him, and Doom went to the Mjolnir believing that he was worthy. But when he was not, Doom then left and went back to Latveria, essentially licking his wounds. And with that chapter closed in Doom's story, let's take a mid-show sponsor break. This episode is brought to you by Lord Doom. Come to Latveria, a great place to live. No crime, free healthcare, and no discrimination. The one rule to follow above all is to worship the one above all, our glorious leader, Victor Von Doom, he who provides. And we're back. Thank you to the Latvian Board of Tourism for that wonderful sponsor. Now let's see what Doom was doing during the first superhero civil war. During the first superhero civil war, honestly, Doom didn't really do too much. He had diplomatic immunity to the Superhero Registration Act, and he really couldn't care less about the act. He did, however, try to make an alliance with Wakanda, but T'Challa and his new wife Storm had seen right through Doom and did not align themselves with dictator nations. Doom would, however, make Latveria a refuge for displaced Atlanteans after their nation had been destroyed. When Tony Stark was director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you can learn about that time if you go back and listen to my Iron Man episode, S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Mighty Avengers would go after Doom for all his crimes against humanity. When it was learned that Doom's satellite was carrying the Venom virus. During the arrest, Doom, Iron Man, and Sentry would take a tumble through time, but Tony and Doom, who had already figured out how to return to the present, did it once more and returned the three superpowered beings to the present day. Doom would eventually be released from prison by the Fantastic Force, a group from the future. They would then kidnap Doom and Johnny and use their powers to restore their time machine that had been made from the dead body of Galactus. This whole plan, led by the future Sue Storm, Sue and Reed would find places for the future refugees, who are now stuck in the present, but they also managed to free Johnny and Doom. What was meant to be a happy ending for this tale unfortunately ended on a sad note when Doom kills the future Sue to restore his honor, because God forbid a woman beats Doom. But it would be revealed that Doom had been following a master. This master was known as the Marquis of Death. After Doom's master had revealed himself, he was displeased with Doom for not having ruled the world yet. He thought that's what Doom would be doing by now, but when he comes to find that Reed is only ruling a small country and was constantly defeated by heroes, he would cast Doom to the Paleocene age after tormenting his mind. Doom would use all of his resources and magic to survive. He would also become the apprentice of the Marquis again, and when the Fantastic Four had defeated Marquis in the present, and Reed refused to kill him, his defeated foe, the apprentice, did so. So, the Doom that got sent back, who trained and came back to the present, who is now the new apprentice, killed his old master, the one that Reed had refused to kill. After this, Doom said that he considered all of their rival interactions between him and Reed to have been settled. When the Asgardians were no longer in Asgard, Loki had convinced them to take refuge in Latveria. While in Latveria, Doom would experiment on them to try and figure out what made them immortal. He would even go as far as making some of them into cyborgs, who would serve as his servants. Doom would sick these Asgardian Asborgs on Thor's half-brother Baldur Odinson. And guess what? This kind of pissed off the God of Thunder, who he showed up to avenge his people. In a battle that Doom did not see a way to win, Doom would retreat and he would get a suit of armor that was made as a new destroyer armor. Using this new armor, he would honestly kick Thor's ass, until Thor noticed that the suit ran on batteries. Noticing this, Thor would stall the fight until the armor ran out of power, and then Thor put hammer to ass, and Doom would retreat and go lick his wounds. Doom, who was ever hungry for power and knew ways to gain it, wanted to use vibranium for its infinite power potential, since it could be imbued with magic. Doom would then learn of a group of xenophobic Wakandans, known as the Dasturi, which would work with Doom so that they can overthrow the Wakandan government and bring them back to the isolationism that they had known before. Doom would help them, and in exchange, they would help Doom. Doom would put nanites in the food of the palace, of the Wakandan palace, and the only reason that T'Challa and Shuri didn't ingest them is because T'Challa's Black Panther powers gave him a heightened sense to not eat or drink anything in the palace, and he warned Shuri not to do so as well. The two Black Panthers would escape, and Storm would wind up in a cell that would dampen her powers. After Doom breaks through most of the locks in the cells in the vault to the vibranium, he calls upon Storm, who has escaped, to help him with the final lock, because he needs a thief's touch. When Storm is having trouble with the lock, Doom threatened T'Challa's family with death if she does not get the lock undone. When she fails at first, he orders Ramonda, T'Challa's mother, to be killed, but she is saved by someone taking the bullet for her. Storm then is able to unlock the door. Meanwhile, in Utopia, the mutant nation at that point, T'Challa and Shuri, along with the Dora Milaje, have asked the X-Men for help. Scott tells them that with the X-Men's fragile status in the world right now, they cannot help in this conflict as it might reflect badly on them. But he does tell T'Challa that he can't stop his people from going if they so desire. So the Wakandans, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Colossus go to Wakanda to take back the throne. Nightcrawler teleports Shuri and T'Challa into the throne room, and Shuri kills the leader of the Dasturi, claiming they are not Wakandan since they had betrayed the royal heritage. T'Challa and Shuri would fight through an army of Dasturi and Doombots to get to the vault where Doom is still having Storm break into the vault. Storm tells him that T'Challa will kill him for what he's done, and T'Challa arrives. Doom grabs Storm by the head and tells T'Challa that he will kill her if he doesn't stand down. T'Challa stands down, and Doom goes through an arch that is supposed to be a deterrent for anyone evil. When Doom passes through the arch, he is confronted by the Panther god Bast. Bast then judges him for all his sins, but Doom explains the other sins of man and explains his future utopia, and Bast sees the good Doom can do, and even though they do not believe in Doom's method, they see the results as ultimately good and allows Doom to take the vibranium. Now that Doom has the vibranium, he would spread it around the world, and the Fantastic Four and T'Challa have to work together to find it. The Fantastic Four and Wakandans have to fight armies of Doombots imbued with the magically charged vibranium that gives them extra durability and strength. Eventually, T'Challa gets to be face to face with Doom, and Doom claims that Wakanda cannot survive without its vibranium, and T'Challa says he's wrong. And then he reaches into Doom's armor and taps into the vibranium, and renders all Wakandan vibranium inert and useless. Shuri then shows up and plants a Wakandan flag and tells Doom that if he tries to invade again, she will not hesitate to take him out. Doom would now try to harness the power of the Scarlet Witch. He would have her betrothed to him with no memory of who she was. It was revealed that he was the one who had increased Wanda's power that was ultimately responsible for the Avengers Disassemble and M-Day. M-Day being the day that mutants were depowered. The Young Avengers would travel back in time with Wanda where they would restore her memory. With her memory restored, they returned to the present where Doom would steal the power of the life energy and become near omnipotent. After becoming near omnipotent, he offered to make everyone's lives perfect and revive any dead, but in exchange, he would be crowned king of the world. The present hero said hell no, and the X-Men, Avengers, and Young Avengers all fight Doom until the power overloaded and left Doom powerless once again. He would teleport away and take all the credit for Wanda's actions, saying only he could have had the power to create all that chaos. Which, honestly, is kind of nice of him to let Wanda kind of off the hook. Doom would be seemingly killed again and wind up in the Council of Reeds, where there were two Infinity Gauntlets. He would take one to its home universe and use it to breathe life into the world, which was desolate of life. He would then rule over this world that had combined science and magic into one. But the 6 factions of the world would turn on Doom, each taking an Infinity Gem with them. Valeria Richards would tell Reed and Nathaniel that Doom was in grave danger, and the two Richards would go back to the Earth that Doom was on and convince 5 of the 6 rulers to pardon Doom. The 6th would not agree, but Nathaniel and Reed would get Doom out of there and return him to Earth. Doom declared him and Reed were even once again. In an event where the Red Skull was trying to take over the world, Doom, along with the Scarlet Witch, would use a morality inversion spell to flip the morality of the Red Skull, along with anyone within the spell's radius, including himself and Wanda, and Tony Stark. You can hear about how the spell affected Tony Stark in the Iron Man episode. Doom, with the new moral compass, would fix one of his past misdeeds, but he would need to take some of Wanda's power, which was easy since she wanted to kill him over the past manipulations of her. When he did take some of her power, he returned Cassie Lang back to life, a murder that he was responsible for. Doom would then flee to another dimension, and with the help of Dr. Voodoo and his brother, to take over Wanda to help do a re-inversion spell to return everyone to their proper selves. Once an artifact from the Mapmaker, who is a multiversal threat, crashed into Latveria, Doom would try to find out all he could about incursions. He would learn that Molecule Man had been created across the multiverse, and all his multiversal variants, and if all his multiversal variants get killed, they'll set off bombs that will destroy the entire multiverse. So now Doom would go across the multiverse, killing Molecule Men until he realized that this isn't the solution. So instead, he begins kidnapping them and making them make a counter bomb to the one that was already inside them, as to save the multiverse. In a last-ditch effort to save the multiverse, Doom would take Doctor Strange and his army of Molecule Men to confront the Beyonder. And at the cost of thousands of realities, and leaving only a dozen, the Molecule Men channeled the Beyonder's omnipotence into Doom. The whole multiverse would be destroyed, and Doom would use his new omnipotence to restructure the world into Battle World. And with his right-hand man, Sheriff Strange, as left hand of the Foundation, Doom would rule as God Emperor Doom. In this new reality, Reed would not exist, and he and Sue would be together, having 2 kids of their own, Franklin and Valeria. During his 8 years of rule, Doom would create a perfect world. Doom would create a perfect world, where Sheriff Strange would alter the memories of everyone so that they wouldn't remember the world before Battle World. But Doom would feel that he was the one flaw in the world. Meanwhile, the Maker and the Cabal from 1610 had awoken from their 8-year suspended animation. The group would release some heroes from 616, including Reed and Black Panther. These heroes would team up with Sheriff Strange to oppose Doom. Doom would kill Sheriff Strange for insubordination and fight against this new threat. Black Panther would use the Infinity Gauntlet from Strange's Sanctuary to fight Doom, but Doom would come out on top. The Molecule Men would use their power to strip Doom of some of his and allow Reed to defeat Doom. Using the power of the Beyonder, Reed would fix everything, erase Doom's memory, and fix his scars before sending him back to Latveria. And I will be doing a Secret Wars episode in the future, and we will go much more in depth about this. After failing as a god, Doom thought he would try to be a hero for a change. Finding an ally in Tony Stark, who he had always admired, Doom would help Tony through the grief of losing Rhodey during the second superhero civil war. And when Tony would die, he saw this as an opportunity to take up the mantle of Iron Man and redeem himself. Mephisto was not a fan of this and tried to stop Doom by making a simulacrum of his mother, as well as S.H.I.E.L.D. tried to arrest him for past crimes. But Mephisto would be banished, and Doom would eventually start to gain the trust of S.H.I.E.L.D. Unfortunately, Doom's heroism would not last long, as Hood would attack, and while fighting him, Doom would get badly scarred, and Tony would return. Doom would retreat to the ruins of Castle Doom, and eventually retake control of Latveria. Doom would imbue Zora with the power cosmic, making her the champion of Latveria, calling her Victorious Doom. Victor would work with the Fantastic Four to trap Galactus in Mount Doom, and use Galactus' power as a power source for Latveria and the whole world. But he would then turn and arrest the Fantastic Four, and plan to publicly execute them for trespassing on Latverian soil. The team managed to escape, and Sue uses her powers to make Victor's suit invisible and expose his scarred face, embarrassing him in front of the world. Symkaria would attempt to frame Doom at Latveria for a bevy of crimes across the world by making Doombots attack New York and have their own agents dressed as Latverians and attack. Doom would surrender for these crimes even though he did not commit them. Kang would then free Doom, but Doom would be ultimately killed by Taskmaster. Doom would go to Hell, where he had to confront Mephisto and Valeria. He would defeat Mephisto and return to Morgan Le Fay's apartment. Doom would get the Ultimate Nullifier and return to Latveria. The world will still think he is a mass murderer, but they would still ask for his help when a massive black hole would be trying to end the Earth. Doom would agree to help with this problem if he could invade Symkaria uninterrupted. Doom does so and takes over the country with ease. Doom would realize that visions he had been having were of another world that he was seeing through the black hole. So Doom travels to the world through the black hole. And on the other Earth, Doom would meet his counterpart, who was much more accomplished, who had collected the Mandarin's 10 rings, the Ultimate Nullifier, the Winter Casket, when the other Doom said that 616's obsession with Reed was ludicrous, and his armor was ridiculous. 616 Doom killed his counterpart and used the Ultimate Nullifier to destroy that reality, and was transported back to the main 616 universe. And Death's and Death's prophecy about Doom had come true, and he was her greatest servant. Doom would select a bride to be the Queen of Latveria because he had planned to steal the power of Dormammu. He invited the Fantastic Four to the wedding, and even asked Reed to be his best man. He was to turn over a new leaf and leave all hurt feelings behind. This was until it was revealed that his soon-to-be queen, Victorious, had a fling with Johnny before their engagement. This angered Doom, and he called off the wedding and claimed to the whole world that was watching on TV that the wedding was only a ruse to weed out enemies that he had attending the wedding. He would then declare that someday he would find a suitable bride, and then he would bombard Johnny with cosmic rays so that he couldn't turn off his flames. Doom would then leave for space and get a Skrullian cult to have Dormammu possess Ego, the living planet. Doom would try to first take over the Guardians of the Galaxy, and when that failed, he would join the team. They would work together, and Doom would siphon power from Dormammu and defeat him, leaving the Guardians and return to Earth. During an attack by Varney, the progenitor of all vampires, had taken over Blade's body and turned most of the world into vampires. Doom had prepared for this, and had a magical barrier around all of Latveria that would kill all vampires that entered. Doom would then call upon the students of Strange Academy to help him fight against the vampires. Doom would then convince the astral form of Doctor Strange to give him the title of Sorcerer Supreme so that he could end the Dark Reign. Strange relinquished control of the title on the condition that Doom would give it back once the world was safe. Doom combined the powers of all the students and ended the attack from Varney and cleared the skies. The only downside was that vampires no longer had a weakness to the sun. After this, Doom would not relinquish the title of Sorcerer Supreme back to Doctor Strange, saying that he would relinquish it when evil was defeated, creating a loophole in the deal he made to keep the power of the Sorcerer Supreme for the foreseeable future. Doom would then banish Strange back into his body, and then announce to the world that he was the new Sorcerer Supreme. After the world returned to normal, Doom retreated to Latveria and put a magical shield to protect him from being tracked. Doom would now use his astral form to summon the Avengers for a meeting. In the meeting, he showed them the visions of Utopia he had and asked why they did not use their power to create a world like this. They said they couldn't impose their will on people and that the world had to save itself. Doom didn't like this answer. He dismissed the heroes, and before he could move forward with his utopia, he did have to do one thing. Upon taking over for Strange, Doom had also inherited the covenant between Strange and the Cyttorak. Believing that the task to battling the Scions of Cyttorak was below him, he employed Spider-Man to do his bidding, imbuing Spider-Man with arcane armor and reeds of Ragador. He tasked Spider-Man to deal with the Scions, and the reeds would resurrect him 8 times if he were to perish in the task. Peter would perish a few times, and then he would seemingly give up and let the Scions take over. But then Aunt May is attacked at Feast, and seemingly dies. Peter uses his remaining reeds to bring her and a few other Feast members back to life. With no reeds left, he would go and face Cyttorak and die. He is revived with magic and becomes a Juggernaut. He then uses the love that he has to defeat Cyttorak and save everything. Now with that out of the way, Doom can finally achieve his utopia. In a single day, the world leaders seemingly swear their alliance to Doom, and the world becomes one nation under Latveria. Doom promised 2 things. 1, all wars would end, and 2, everyone would have access to the best healthcare and education. Doom would kill Baron Zemo and turn Hydra into an organization for good, until the skeptical heroes like the Avengers and Fantastic Four tried to show Hydra that it was all a farce by Doom. Hydra would turn back to villains, but Doom was able to use this as a way to draw more support. Currently, Doom is a benevolent leader, and he rides a dinosaur Doom as his steed. And I know that a new series known as Superior Avengers is coming out, where Doom creates his own Avengers team that he believes to be a better fit. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, that was a lengthy episode. So, let's look at the top 5 things we learned in today's episode. Number 1. Victor Von Doom is skilled in both mystical arts and technology, often combining them to have immense power. Number 2. Doom is always on a conquest for power and rulership. The few times he has gained it so far, he became bored with it. Maybe this newest time, he'll keep at it. Number 3. The main reason for Doom studying mystic arts is because his mother was taken from him at a young age by Mephisto, so he studied to rescue her. Number 4. Doom has a petty grudge against Reed Richards because of his own arrogance, making him think Reed is beneath him, and he blames Reed for the accident that scarred his face and caused his expulsion from college. And this arrogance would be the reason for a number of Doom's defeats. And number 5. After a vision of Utopia, Doom claimed the title of Sorcerer Supreme and has been ruling the world and has been doing pretty good for the world. Let's see if that lasts. I hope you are now better informed about the big bad of the next 2 Avengers movies. Doom is a complex character that, yes, he has done some crazy villainous things and is a villain, but I think he has great capacity to be good. Will his good streak last? Probably not. But we'll see how the world under Doom works and how long it'll take for Doom's arrogance to be his downfall once again. Next episode, we're going to get a little spooky and go over the Marvel Zombies event from the comics. This episode was written, recorded, and edited by myself, James Bazinski. Intro music sourced from freesound.org. You can find us on Instagram at TMPFGL, TikTok at TMPFGL, YouTube at the Marvel Podcast for Gifted Listeners. Feedback, questions, or suggestions can be emailed to tmpfgl@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and rate the show wherever you listen. Until next time, gifted listeners, thank you for listening, and Excelsior!